Have you ever wondered why the more kind you are, the more invisible you feel? You give your time, your energy, your heart, hoping it will bring connection, respect, maybe even love. But instead it leaves you drained, unseen, taken for granted. Deep down you know something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. So you keep smiling, keep helping, keep showing up for others, even when you're falling apart inside. And each time, a small part of you fades. You start to question your own worth, your own voice, your place in this world. There's a quiet kind of pain in being too kind. It's not loud or dramatic. It doesn't scream for attention. It hides behind polite smiles and gentle words, but it cuts deep, because you've convinced yourself that being kind means being available, agreeable, and never saying no. You've built your identity around being the one who never lets anyone down, even if it means letting yourself down every single day. And it's exhausting. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're tired because you're carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations on your shoulders, while burying your own needs so deep you can barely hear them anymore. The truth is, kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's self-erasure. It's giving from an empty cup. It's saying yes when your soul is begging you to say no. You think that if you just keep giving, eventually someone will notice. Someone will give back. Someone will love you for how much you sacrifice. But they don't. Because people only value what you value, and if you don't value yourself, neither will they. You're teaching the world how to treat you by what you tolerate. And by being endlessly kind to everyone, you're telling the world that your time, your energy, your voice, they're all negotiable. But here's the shift. You don't have to stop being kind. You just have to stop being kind to everyone. Especially those who only show up when they need something. Especially those who ignore your boundaries, your needs, your worth. Your kindness is a gift, not a currency. It's not something you owe to everyone. It's something you choose to give to the people who earn it, who respect it, who reflect it back. When you finally draw that line, when you stop pouring into people who only take, something powerful happens. You get yourself back, your energy, your focus, your fire. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to live, to grow, to rise. And that starts with letting go of the need to be kind at your own expense. Because when you stop being kind to everyone, you finally start being kind to yourself. And that's when everything changes. That's when your life starts to align with who you truly are. So stay with this message. Because this isn't about becoming less, it's about becoming whole. And it's time. You keep wondering why you feel so tired even on the days you don't do much. It's not your body that's tired, it's your spirit. Because every moment you spend trying to meet everyone else's needs while ignoring your own is a moment you chip away at your soul. You've become the person others lean on, depend on, and expect more from. And somehow you've accepted the idea that it's your job to carry it all. You've been conditioned to believe that your value lies in your usefulness. But that lie is killing your joy, your drive, and your sense of who you really are. You're not tired because life is too heavy. You're tired because you're carrying too many things that were never yours to hold. You've allowed guilt to take the wheel. Every time someone asks for help, you feel like saying no would make you selfish. So you say yes, again and again, until the word yes becomes your prison. But behind every yes that goes against your truth is a silent scream for space, for peace, for rest. You're not here to live in constant service to others. You're here to live fully, boldly, and with intention. That can't happen when your entire life is spent trying to avoid disappointing people who never worry about disappointing you. What if the real reason you feel so drained is because you're surrounded by people who only show up to take? People who applaud your kindness when it benefits them, but vanish the moment you need the same. That's not love. That's not respect. That's exploitation. And you don't owe them anything. Not your time, not your presence, not your energy. You were not born to be a permanent support system for those who refuse to grow. Your worth does not depend on your ability to make others comfortable. Your worth is already complete. You just forgot it in the noise of constantly trying to be enough for everyone else. It's time to stop giving yourself away in pieces, to stop apologizing for needing space. You are not selfish for wanting balance. You are not cruel for needing boundaries. You are not broken because you're done being everything to everyone. You are finally waking up. Real strength isn't in how much you can endure. It's in how much you can protect. Protect your mind. Protect your peace. Protect your future. The people who love you will understand. And those who don't, they never truly valued you, they only valued what you gave. You have a right to step back, to breathe, to choose yourself not just once, but every single day. This is how you begin to reclaim your energy, not by being less kind, but by being wisely kind, purposefully kind. Kind to those who see you, respect you, and give as much as they take. That's the life you deserve. One that nourishes you instead of draining you. One that finally feels like home inside your own heart, and you're allowed to have it. Somewhere along the way you started believing that being liked was the same as being safe. That if you just stayed kind, agreeable, and easy to be around, people would treat you with care. That if you made yourself small enough, soft enough, helpful enough, you wouldn't be hurt, judged, or rejected. But that belief is a cage, a quiet, invisible prison where your real self can't breathe. Because no matter how kind you are, some people will still misunderstand you, still use you, still leave. And chasing their approval will never fill the emptiness they leave behind. This need to be liked, it's not your fault. It's a survival instinct. You learned it somewhere, maybe early, maybe painfully. You learned that peace meant being pleasant, that love meant giving everything away. And so you became the fixer, the caretaker, the one who always put others first. But the truth is, no amount of people-pleasing can give you the love you've been searching for. It's never enough. Because the approval you're starving for isn't out there, it's inside you. It's the approval you keep denying yourself every time you betray your truth to make someone else feel more comfortable. You weren't born to be invisible. You weren't made to be a reflection of other people's desires. You were made to take up space, to speak with clarity, to walk into a room without shrinking. And none of that requires you to be mean. It only requires you to be honest. Kindness and honesty are not opposites. Real kindness includes truth. Real kindness includes boundaries. Real kindness says, I care about you, but I will not abandon myself to keep you happy. You don't have to fight to be enough. You already are, not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are when no one's looking. That person, the one with quiet strength, deep empathy, and untapped fire, is still in you. They're just buried under years of trying to be what others needed. But now, it's your turn. Your turn to become who you need. Your turn to choose yourself without apology. The fear of being disliked is loud, but your peace is louder. The moment you stop measuring your worth by how many people approve of you, you begin to live with freedom. Some will fall away when you set boundaries. Let them. Because the ones who truly value you will rise to meet your truth, not just your compliance. You don't have to carry the weight of everyone's expectations anymore. You are allowed to let them go. You are allowed to release the need to prove, to please, to perform. This is how your power returns, not in aggression, but in alignment. Not in becoming harder, but in becoming clearer. When you let go of the need to be liked by everyone, you make space for something greater. Respect, truth, peace, and most importantly, a life that finally feels like your own. Keep going. You're closer than you think. You don't have to apologize for evolving. You don't have to explain why you're no longer the version of yourself that tolerated everything in silence. Growth often looks like pulling away. It looks like saying less, doing less, giving less, to those who never truly saw you. And that shift, that choice to step back, is not cruelty. It's clarity. It's what happens when you finally realize that being constantly available is not the same as being genuinely valued. You begin to see the difference between being wanted for what you offer and being loved for who you are. That distinction changes everything. There's a quiet confidence in no longer needing to be everything for everyone. It's not loud, it doesn't scream for attention, it just settles in your chest like peace. You stop chasing approval, and you start choosing alignment. You begin to ask a different question, not do they like me, but does this serve my soul? And when the answer is no, you walk away. Not because you're bitter, but because you're finally wise enough to protect what matters, your energy, your time, your heart. That's not selfish. That's sacred. Because when you honor your own limits, you teach others how to honor them too. You're not here to be a constant comfort to people who bring you chaos. You're not here to carry guilt for other people's inability to respect your boundaries. You're allowed to close the door. You're allowed to say, this no longer feels right. You're allowed to choose silence where you once gave explanations. That's how you reclaim your life, not by yelling for respect, but by no longer staying where it's withheld. You walk differently when you know your worth. You speak differently when your voice is no longer tangled in fear. Letting go of the need to please doesn't make you cold. It makes you conscious. Conscious of your value. Conscious of your limits. conscious of who deserves access to you. Not everyone does. Your time is not free. Your love is not free. Your presence is not a given. The people who benefit from your self-abandonment will call your healing selfish. Let them. Because your peace is not up for negotiation anymore. You've spent enough time breaking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for your soul. Now is the time to return to yourself, to remember what it feels like to live without pretending, to feel without filtering, to give without losing. You don't need to be less kind. You need to be more selective. Let your kindness be intentional, not automatic. Let it be rooted in strength, not fear. You are not here to prove anything. You are here to be real. And when you finally embrace that, when you stop trading authenticity for approval, you'll find a freedom deeper than anything you've ever known. The version of you who honors themselves is waiting. Not someday, now. This is your turning point. Choose yourself. Every time. There is nothing noble about constantly putting yourself last. There is no glory in being the one who always sacrifices, always bends, always breaks to keep the peace. You've been taught to believe that your needs are less important, that your voice should be quiet, that your desires are secondary to everyone else's comfort. And for a while you believed it. You accepted the silence, the exhaustion, the emptiness, because it felt safer than setting boundaries. But now you're starting to feel the truth, that living like this is not peace. It's slow self-abandonment, and you are not made to disappear. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away from situations and people that ask you to shrink. There is nothing wrong with protecting your energy. There is nothing wrong with choosing yourself. You've spent so much time being kind that you've forgotten how to be whole. You've given so much to others that you've neglected the one person who needed your love the most, yourself. But it's not too late. The power you gave away is still yours. The strength you buried beneath obligation is still alive. All it needs is permission. You don't need to be anyone's savior. You don't need to solve everything, fix everything, hold everything together. That is not your purpose. You were not born to be the emotional safety net for people who never once caught you. You were not born to carry guilt for prioritizing your own healing. It's not your job to be endlessly kind in the face of disrespect. The most powerful thing you can do is draw the line and hold it. Not with anger, but with certainty. Because that's what self-respect looks like. Not loud, not cruel, just firm, clear, unshakable. There is a version of you that doesn't feel tired all the time. A version of you that doesn't over-explain, over-apologize, or overextend. A version of you that walks with confidence, not fear. That version is not a fantasy. It's who you become when you stop leaking energy into places that don't feed your growth. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You don't have to be endlessly generous to be loved. The people who truly see you will respect your boundaries. They won't punish you for protecting your peace. They won't vanish when you stop overgiving. They will rise with you. You've waited long enough. You've hoped that others would change. That someone would finally recognize your efforts, your loyalty, your sacrifices. But the recognition you crave won't come from the outside. It begins with you. The day you decide that your well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. That your voice is valid, that your kindness is valuable but not to be wasted. From that moment forward, everything begins to shift. Not because the world suddenly gets easier, but because you finally stop making yourself smaller to fit inside it. You rise. You reclaim. You return to yourself. And that changes everything. You don't need anyone's permission to protect your peace. You don't need validation to choose yourself. The moment you stop waiting for others to understand you is the moment you step into your true power. You've spent too long seeking approval from people who only recognize your value when it serves their needs. Too long keeping quiet so others can feel comfortable. Too long measuring your worth by how little you ask for. But there comes a time when you can no longer ignore the voice inside you, the one that's been whispering all along that you deserve more. More respect, more balance, more truth. There's a deep strength in choosing silence over explanation, in choosing boundaries over chaos, in choosing solitude over disrespect. That kind of strength doesn't come from being loud or aggressive. It comes from knowing who you are and refusing to let the world shape you into something smaller. It comes from walking away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You're not obligated to stay in spaces that drain you. You're not required to keep giving when it costs you your peace. And you don't have to keep proving your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The idea that kindness means tolerance is a trap. Kindness without discernment leads to depletion. You weren't born to be endlessly accommodating. You were born to be whole, to be intentional, to stand tall in your truth. True kindness is not about allowing everything. It's about knowing what to allow and what to walk away from. You don't have to fight to be heard. You just have to be willing to stop listening to the noise that tells you your needs are too much. They're not. They are valid. They are real. And they deserve to be honored. Every time you say yes when your heart says no, you fracture your own boundaries. Every time you smile through discomfort just to keep the peace, you betray your own emotional safety. That betrayal builds up. It shows up as anxiety, fatigue, resentment. It doesn't go away by ignoring it. It goes away by facing it, by choosing to stop running, by making a decision, I will not abandon myself anymore. That one choice begins a cascade of healing. It shifts the entire foundation you stand on, and it leads you to a life where you no longer need to shrink to be accepted. The love you've been giving to others so freely, offer it to yourself. The patience you extend to everyone around you, practice it within. The loyalty you show without question, turn it inward. You are worthy of the same grace, care, and compassion that you pour into others. You always have been, and now you finally get to live like it. This isn't about becoming hard, it's about becoming whole. You can be kind and still protect yourself. You can love others and still choose yourself. That balance is not selfish, it's sacred, and it's yours to claim, fully and without apology. There comes a moment when you finally realize that your silence has been mistaken for weakness, that your constant kindness has been seen as permission, and that the more you give without limit, the more people expect without gratitude. This is the moment your awareness sharpens, not into bitterness, but into truth. Because when you start to see clearly, you can no longer pretend. You can no longer keep living in patterns that drain you just to make others more comfortable. You begin to understand that love without boundaries is not love, it's erasure. And peace bought at the cost of your own dignity is not peace at all. You are allowed to take up space in this world without guilt. You are allowed to have opinions, needs, and standards without feeling selfish. You don't exist just to be convenient for others. You are not a background character in someone else's life. You have a purpose, a voice, a path that is yours alone. And the more you try to water yourself down to keep others close, the further you drift from who you truly are. You've been trained to believe that being easygoing means being liked, but being liked isn't the same as being respected. And what you need now is not more acceptance from others, but acceptance of yourself, exactly as you are, without apology. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone earns a seat at your table simply by showing up. You get to choose who surrounds you. You get to decide what energy you allow into your life. You get to enforce the boundaries that protect your mental clarity, your emotional balance, and your personal growth. And you don't need a reason that makes others feel better. Your peace is reason enough. Your healing is reason enough. Your sanity is reason enough. You've given so many chances out of compassion, but now it's time to show that same compassion to yourself. You've seen what happens when you ignore your limits. You've felt the weight of being everything for everyone, and you know deep down that it's not sustainable. That something within you begins to die when you keep silencing your truth to preserve someone else's comfort. That is not your job. You're not here to be the emotional cushion for people who refuse to grow. You're not here to carry pain that isn't yours. You're here to live with purpose, with presence, with freedom. And that freedom begins the moment you stop betraying yourself for acceptance. This is your awakening. This is your line in the sand. From this point on, you speak up when it matters. You choose people who choose you. You stop over-explaining, over-giving, overcompensating. You stop trading your peace for proximity. The world doesn't need a version of you that's palatable. It needs a version of you that's real. And the moment you show up fully, without guilt or fear, everything begins to align. You become unstoppable, not because you changed for others, but because you finally return to yourself. You don't need to fight to be seen anymore. You've spent enough time trying to earn what should have been given freely. Respect, care, reciprocity. The truth is, when you start showing up for yourself, you stop chasing people who make you feel invisible. When you recognize your value, you stop negotiating your worth. And when you finally understand that being kind doesn't mean being used, something powerful shifts inside you. The fear of disappointing others starts to fade. The urge to explain yourself starts to quiet. And what rises in its place is self-trust, steady, solid, unshakable. You've learned the hard way that some people only stay when you're small, when you're silent, when you're endlessly giving and never asking. But you weren't born to live in fragments. You weren't meant to survive by shrinking. There's nothing noble about suffering in silence. There's nothing admirable about sacrificing your well-being to keep others from feeling uncomfortable. The more you betray yourself to maintain connection, the more disconnected you become from who you really are. And that disconnect is what leaves you feeling hollow, exhausted, lost, not because you're broken, but because you're living out of alignment with your truth. Real growth begins when you stop asking, "What will they think?" and start asking, "What do I need?" That question changes everything. It pulls you out of the noise and brings you back to your center. It reminds you that your life is not a performance, that your value isn't up for debate, that your kindness does not require constant compromise. There is strength in softness, but only when that softness is protected by boundaries. Without them, your compassion becomes currency for people who have no intention of giving back. Choosing yourself will offend people who benefited from your self-abandonment. Let them be offended. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. You are not here to live up to the image someone else created of you. You are not here to carry emotional debts that were never yours to begin with. You are here to stand in your truth, even if it shakes the ground you've walked on for years. Even if it costs you certain relationships. Because the relationships that are real will never require you to betray yourself to keep them. Let your no be as sacred as your yes. Let your silence speak louder than words that are always misunderstood. Let your presence be a privilege, not an expectation. You have nothing to prove to people who refuse to see you. You have nothing to explain to those committed to misunderstanding your growth. You are not here to be small. You are here to rise, without apology, without guilt, without second-guessing. And the moment you choose to rise, you give others silent permission to do the same. Not by pleasing them, but by honoring yourself. That is the kind of kindness the world truly needs. One rooted in strength, clarity, and unshakable truth. There is nothing wrong with your sensitivity. There is nothing wrong with your heart. You care deeply, you feel deeply. But that depth was never meant to be taken for granted. It was never meant to be stretched thin across people who only show up when it's easy for them. You've been generous with your energy, with your time, with your soul, and it's time to realize that not everyone deserves that access. Protecting your peace is not cold. It's not rude. It's necessary. Because when you give endlessly to people who only take, you eventually become a stranger to yourself. Numb, disconnected, hollow. That's not what you were created for. You were created for connection, not depletion. For impact, not invisibility. And it begins by honoring your boundaries without apology. Saying no without guilt. Walking away without needing to justify your peace. Because peace doesn't need permission. It's your birthright. And if someone can't understand the limits you set to protect it, they were never respecting you in the first place. People who truly see you won't punish you for taking care of yourself. They won't weaponize your boundaries or make you feel like your needs are too much. They'll honor your presence by showing up with consistency, with care, with effort. The truth is, the more you grow, the more you will outgrow certain people. Not because you're better than them, but because you're no longer available for what drains you. You're no longer willing to carry the weight of one-sided relationships. You're no longer pretending that everything is fine just to avoid conflict. Growth requires honesty. It requires discomfort. It demands that you face the parts of yourself that have been screaming to be heard but silenced out of fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being alone, fear of being called selfish for finally choosing yourself. But choosing yourself is not selfish. It's sacred. It's how you reclaim your power from years of being molded by expectations that were never yours. It's how you begin to rebuild your life from a place of truth, not obligation. And it's how you remind yourself that your worth has never been tied to how much you give to people who refuse to pour back into you. You are worthy even when you say no. You are enough even when you stop performing. You are whole even when you stand alone. Let that truth settle deep within you. Let it replace the noise that told you to always smile, always agree, always bend. You don't need to be agreeable to be loved. You don't need to be available to be valuable. You only need to be aligned with who you are, with what you believe, with what brings your soul peace. That alignment is the foundation of everything you're becoming. And when you live from that place, you'll realize you never needed to prove anything to anyone. You only ever needed to remember who you were before the world told you to be quiet. You are allowed to take a step back. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to choose your own path, even when it's different from what others expect of you. Too often we've been taught that if we're not constantly giving, we're somehow falling short, that our worth is tied to how much we do for others, how much we sacrifice for the sake of those around us. But you are not a machine. You are a person, and you deserve to be valued for who you are, not just what you give. The more you keep pouring from an empty cup, the less you have to give yourself, and eventually you run out. You run dry. You feel like you're disappearing because all that remains is exhaustion. But you're not disappearing, you're being erased, and it's time to stop allowing it. You have the power to take control of your energy, to decide where it goes and to protect it fiercely. You have the ability to walk away from the things that drain you, even if it's hard, even if it means facing discomfort. There is no growth without discomfort. There is no transformation without pain. It's in the moments when you choose yourself, when you choose peace over chaos, that you find your true strength. You have everything you need inside of you. The courage, the clarity, the resilience, it's all there. But you have to trust it. You have to trust yourself. You've spent so much of your life trying to meet other people's expectations, trying to fit into their boxes, trying to make sure everyone else is happy. But the truth is, you can't make everyone happy. And you shouldn't have to. The cost of constantly trying to please others is too high. You lose your authenticity. You lose your peace. You lose your sense of self. But when you stop living for other people's approval and start living for yourself, everything shifts. Suddenly, you realize that you're not responsible for everyone's happiness. You're only responsible for your own. And when you put your own well-being first, you set an example for those around you. You show them that it's okay to prioritize yourself. You show them that taking care of your mental health, your emotional well-being, your peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Your peace is your power. And it's time to stop giving it away to people who take without returning. It's time to stop apologizing for needing space. It's time to stop justifying your boundaries to those who refuse to respect them. You don't owe anyone your energy if they're not willing to appreciate it. You don't owe anyone your time if they're not willing to give it back. Your time, your energy, your heart are precious. And they deserve to be given only to those who honor and respect them. So stop bending, stop shrinking, stop silencing yourself. Stand tall in who you are, own your voice, own your space, own your boundaries. You deserve to exist in this world fully, authentically, and unapologetically. You don't need permission. You just need to remember who you are. And when you do, you'll realize that the strength to live on your own terms has always been within you. You have to remember this. Your worth is not defined by how much you do for others. It is not defined by how many people rely on you or how many times you've put your own needs aside to keep the peace. Your worth is inherent. It was never contingent on your ability to constantly give, constantly please, or constantly sacrifice. It's time to stop measuring your value by the amount of emotional labor you've carried for others. You do not exist to be a savior. You exist to be you, to live fully, to stand in your power, and to thrive. The truth is, you've been taught that kindness is about endless giving, that showing up for others means putting yourself last. But there is strength in setting limits. There is courage in saying no when it's necessary. It's not about being unkind. It's about being kind to yourself. The energy you give to others should be met with gratitude, respect, and reciprocity, not manipulation, not demand. The moment you stop allowing people to drain you is the moment you begin to refill your own cup. It's the moment you take your power back. And that's the moment you begin to transform. The reality is, people will test your boundaries. They will push against the limits you've set for yourself, because they're used to you being everything for them. But when you stand firm in your decisions, when you make it clear that your peace comes first, you teach people how to treat you. You teach them that your kindness is not weakness. It is a gift that deserves to be respected. And if they cannot see that, then they are not the people who deserve a place in your life. You are not obligated to be the one who carries the emotional weight of everyone around you. You are allowed to set the standard for how you expect to be treated. And you are allowed to walk away from anyone who refuses to honor that. It's a hard truth to face, especially when we've been conditioned to believe that we have to be everything to everyone. But the truth is, you've been sacrificing pieces of yourself for far too long, and it's time to stop. It's time to stop letting people's demands shape your reality. It's time to stop allowing their needs to overshadow your own. When you give too much, you lose yourself. You lose your clarity. You lose your sense of who you are. But when you start setting boundaries, you rediscover your essence. You reconnect with the parts of yourself you've been neglecting. And that is where your strength lies. The beauty of it is that when you start choosing yourself, the people who truly belong in your life will respect you even more. They will admire your strength, your self-respect, and your unwavering commitment to your own well-being. The right people won't take offense to your boundaries. They will understand that you're showing up as your best self when you take care of yourself first. You will attract relationships that are built on mutual respect, love, and understanding. And that's where true connection begins. So take a deep breath. Set your boundaries without guilt. Protect your peace with confidence. You are worthy of a life where you no longer have to sacrifice your happiness for the sake of others. The moment you choose to honor yourself, you step into a new chapter, one where your value is never questioned and your peace is never compromised. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. In fact, it's the most self-loving thing you can do. We've been conditioned to believe that putting ourselves first makes us bad, makes us cold, or even unworthy of love. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Self-care isn't about being disconnected from the world or ignoring the needs of others. It's about ensuring that you are strong enough, whole enough, to show up as your best self. When you neglect yourself, when you keep giving and giving without replenishing, you lose the very essence of who you are. And when that happens, you have nothing left to give, nothing left to share with the world. You owe it to yourself to protect your energy, to honor your body, to nurture your mind and soul. Every time you ignore your own needs, you send a message to the universe that you are not worthy of your own love, and you begin to believe it. But that stops now. Your well-being matters, your happiness matters, your peace matters. And when you make the decision to prioritize yourself, you begin a transformation that will change your life. It won't be easy at first. People might question your choices. They may criticize your boundaries or even accuse you of being selfish. But that's because they don't understand the depth of your need to protect your peace. They don't understand how deeply you've been running on empty for far too long. Setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of self-respect. It is a clear message to the world that you will no longer allow your energy to be depleted by those who take without giving. You will no longer settle for relationships, work environments, or situations that drain you. You will no longer apologize for choosing yourself. You deserve to be surrounded by people who understand the importance of mutual respect, of give and take. You deserve to be in spaces where your energy is welcomed, not consumed. And you deserve to have a life where your peace is valued above all else. This is your journey, your path to self-love, self-respect, and self-worth. And it starts with this. You are not responsible for everyone else's happiness. You are only responsible for your own. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot carry the weight of the world on your shoulders without eventually breaking. It's time to let go of the idea that you must be everything to everyone. It's time to shed the belief that your value comes from how much you give. Your value comes from who you are, your strength, your authenticity, your capacity to love yourself. When you finally stop being kind to everyone, you will rediscover the most powerful version of yourself. You will find the energy and clarity that was always inside you, waiting to be recognized. You will attract people who see your worth and honor your boundaries. And doing so, you will create a life where you can thrive, not merely survive. A life where your peace is protected, your time is valued, and your love is reserved for those who truly deserve it. This is not a journey of selfishness. This is a journey of empowerment, a journey that will bring you closer to the person you were always meant to be. So take that first step. Honor yourself, because you are worth it. Every time you make the decision to choose yourself, you are building a new foundation. This is the moment when everything begins to shift. You are no longer held captive by other people's expectations, no longer bending to fit into a mold that was never meant for you. The chains of guilt, of obligation, of self-sacrifice begin to break, and as they do, you are left with a sense of freedom that you have never truly experienced before. But freedom doesn't come without its challenges. There will be moments when you question whether you're doing the right thing. You will hear the voices of doubt, the fear that you are being too harsh, too cold, too distant. But these are the voices of your past, the voices that told you that your needs were secondary to everyone else's. These voices do not belong to your future. Your future is built on courage, on clarity, and on strength. The real test begins when you stand firm in your boundaries and refuse to let them be crossed. It's not always easy. People will push back. They may try to make you feel guilty for putting yourself first. They may even try to manipulate you, make you question your choices. But this is your moment of truth. This is where you separate the noise from the clarity. This is where you remind yourself that your peace is more important than anyone else's demands. And when you hold strong in your decision to protect your energy, you will begin to feel a shift inside of you. You will feel more empowered, more connected to your true self, more aligned with your purpose. There is an undeniable power in choosing yourself. It's not about being selfish, it's about being self-aware. It's about recognizing that in order to show up for others in a meaningful way, you must first show up for yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give love and support to others if you are running on fumes. And you cannot be the person you were meant to be if you are constantly sacrificing pieces of yourself. This is not your destiny. Your destiny is to stand tall, to own your life, to show up as your full self without apology. This is the power that comes from setting boundaries, knowing that your worth is not determined by how much you give, but by how much you respect yourself. You have the right to say no without guilt. You have the right to take space without feeling like you're letting anyone down. And you have the right to walk away from relationships or situations that are not in alignment with your highest self. The moment you choose to honor your boundaries, you step into your power. You step into the life that you were always meant to live. A life where you are in control, where you call the shots, and where your peace is your priority. You are deserving of a life where you are treated with respect, where your energy is valued, and where your happiness is the focus. This is your birthright. Don't let anyone make you feel that it's wrong to claim it. By choosing yourself, you're not turning your back on anyone. You're turning towards yourself. And that is where true transformation begins. Every time you allow yourself to stand in your own power, to respect your boundaries, and to choose yourself first, you begin to rewrite the narrative of your life. You stop being a passive participant in your own journey and become the active creator of your future. You stop letting others decide your worth, your purpose, and your direction. When you take control of your energy and stop being available to every demand, you become the author of your own story. And in doing so, you free yourself from the chains of others' expectations, which were never meant to define you. It is easy to get lost in the noise of the world, in the voices that tell you who you should be, how you should act, and what you should give. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that kindness means giving endlessly. But real kindness is rooted in self-awareness. It's the deep understanding that you cannot give what you do not have. And if you are constantly empty, if you are constantly pouring yourself into others without refilling, you are doing a disservice to both yourself and those around you. The most powerful gift you can offer to the world is your wholeness. And that begins with putting yourself first. When you give yourself permission to prioritize your own needs, you open the door to a life of purpose and passion. You start to focus on what you want, on what you need, and on what you deserve. And when you begin to do this, the people around you will start to see you differently. They will see the strength in your decisions, the confidence in your actions, and the clarity in your mind. They will understand that your kindness is not a tool to manipulate, but a choice you make from a place of fullness. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to create space for yourself, to be unapologetic about your own needs, and the moment you do this, you will start to experience life in a new way. The people who truly value you will respect your boundaries and will begin to meet you on a deeper level, one based on mutual understanding and shared respect. The others, the ones who never truly saw your worth, will fade away. And that is not a loss. That is liberation. The beauty of this transformation is that it doesn't just change your relationships. It changes your relationship with yourself. When you begin to set boundaries, you begin to build trust with yourself. You show yourself that you are worthy of love, that you are worthy of respect, that you are worthy of peace. And this trust in yourself becomes the foundation for every decision you make moving forward. You no longer second-guess your choices. You no longer doubt your worth. You no longer apologize for taking up space. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are simply choosing to honor the person you are meant to be. It's time to stop letting others define your limits. It's time to stop sacrificing your happiness for the comfort of others. Your happiness is yours to create, yours to protect, and yours to embrace. When you step into this truth, you will feel a sense of power, of freedom, and of strength like never before. It's time to stop being kind to everyone and start being kind to yourself. Only then will you truly begin to live. You may have spent your entire life pleasing others, bending yourself into a shape that's not truly yours, all in the name of kindness. But kindness, in its purest form, begins with respecting your own boundaries. It begins with acknowledging that your needs, your dreams, and your peace matter just as much as anyone else's. For too long, you may have believed that to be loved, to be accepted, you had to give everything you had, to surrender yourself for the sake of others. But in that process, you lost sight of who you really are. You lost sight of your own desires, your own voice, and your own worth. When you sacrifice yourself for the comfort of others, you rob yourself of the chance to truly live. The truth is, you don't have to give everything to everyone. You don't have to be available for every request, every favor, every need. You can choose to say no, and in doing so, you protect your energy, your peace, and your life. This doesn't make you cold or selfish. It makes you wise. It makes you someone who understands that true kindness comes from a place of fullness, not emptiness. When you are full, you have more to give. When you are aligned with your own needs, you can show up for others in a way that is authentic, sustainable, and powerful. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped allowing others to take what they wanted from you without considering your own needs. Imagine waking up each day with a sense of peace, knowing that you are living on your own terms, not under the thumb of anyone else's expectations. Imagine a life where your choices are yours, where your happiness is not a byproduct of pleasing others, but a result of honoring your own path. This is the life that awaits you when you choose to stop being kind to everyone and start being kind to yourself. The most empowering thing you can do is choose your own happiness. When you stop sacrificing your peace for the comfort of others, you create the space to truly connect with yourself. You begin to realize that you are worthy of love, not because you give endlessly to others, but because you exist as you are. You are enough. And when you start believing this, when you start living in this truth, everything begins to shift. Your relationships become more authentic, more fulfilling, because they are based on mutual respect, not one-sided giving. Choosing yourself doesn't mean turning your back on others. It means showing up for them in a way that is rooted in your own truth. It means being clear about what you can give and what you cannot. It means setting boundaries that protect your energy and your well-being so that you can be the best version of yourself, not just for others, but for yourself. The moment you embrace this shift, you step into a life that is purposeful, empowered, and unapologetic. You stop being the person who is constantly drained by others and start being the person who radiates strength, clarity, and authenticity. You have every right to protect your energy. You have every right to say no. You have every right to choose yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels like the world might not understand. But the truth is, the more you honor yourself, the more you create a life that is aligned with your deepest desires. And in that life, you will find fulfillment, peace, and the power to be truly kind, not just to others, but to yourself. Every time you put yourself first, you take a powerful step towards reclaiming your life. It's not just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to your own well-being. When you begin to honor your boundaries, you start to rebuild the foundation of your life from a place of strength. You are no longer a passive participant, going along with whatever others demand. Instead, you are the architect of your reality, making choices that are aligned with your deepest truths and desires. This shift is liberating, but it's also necessary. The world will keep asking more of you, pushing you to do more, be more, give more. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. There is power in recognizing that you do not have to meet every expectation, fulfill every request, or offer kindness at the expense of your own peace. The more you honor your boundaries, the more respect you will command, not just from others, but from yourself. You will begin to see that your worth is not measured by how much you can give, or how often you say yes. Your worth is intrinsic, a reflection of your authenticity, your truth, and your ability to stay grounded in your own values. When you stop saying yes to every request, you begin to say yes to your own growth. You create the space for the things that truly matter to flourish. Your passions, your dreams, your relationships. You allow yourself the time and energy to nurture what lights you up, what makes you feel alive. You no longer sacrifice your happiness for the sake of keeping the peace. Because peace is something that comes from within, not from the constant approval of others. This is not selfishness. This is self-respect. It's the understanding that your time, your energy, and your mental health are valuable. It's about prioritizing your well-being without guilt or hesitation. The more you practice this, the more you will see how much stronger, more fulfilled, and more empowered you become. You stop feeling drained by every interaction, and instead, you begin to radiate a sense of confidence that others will notice and respect. You will start to see that your kindness has a new power. It's no longer coming from a place of depletion, but from a place of abundance. It is no longer given out of obligation, but from genuine love and connection. When you stop overextending yourself, you open the door to real, meaningful relationships that are based on mutual understanding and respect. The people who truly care about you will celebrate your boundaries, because they will see that you are not someone to be taken for granted, but someone who values themselves deeply. Every time you honor your own needs, you reinforce your self-worth. You teach others how to treat you by first treating yourself with the respect you deserve. You begin to see that kindness doesn't mean sacrificing your peace. It means nurturing yourself so you can offer the best of who you are to the world. The more you prioritize yourself, the more you will find that everything else falls into place. You will no longer be at the mercy of others' demands. You will be free to live life on your own terms, with the strength and clarity to pursue your true path. It's time to stop being kind to everyone. It's time to be kind to yourself.